Hi guys, Allison here. Happy Fused Glass Friday. I got some feedback on my last video that some of you would appreciate it if I spoke more during my videos, so I figured I would use this week to put out a video that I've been planning for a while. I thought to answer some of the questions I get pretty regularly on my videos that I would go through some of my favorite tools that I use. I will try to find what I'm showing you where you can buy them. I will try to link them down below. If I can't find the exact tools I'm using, I'll link something similar. So I figured we would start with the cutting tools. So the scoring tool that I use is the Oil Hand Cutter by Toyo. I know they have these in some fun colors. I've gone with green because it's my favorite. You can open this, so it's called an oil cutter because it has this little screw on the back, so you can open it, put glass cutting oil in there, and then that will help lubricate the cutting wheel. Full disclosure, I have never ever put oil in this tool. The idea of having to clean oil off of all of my glasswork before I fire it just seems pretty tedious to me. And I haven't found the need to do that ever in my work. I'm sure I'll get comments below about people who always oil their tools and that's what works for them, and that's great. Like I said, I just haven't found the need for it. So with the scoring tool, this is how I cut most of the shapes that I'm using. It's great for straight lines. It's also great for gentle wavy curves, something like this. So of course the scoring tool is used in conjunction with the running pliers. The running pliers that I have are, let's see if I can read it on here, they are by the brand Leponet, so I will link these below. These are also wonderful. They come with a bolt here, as you can see. I'm missing the bolt, haven't missed it. So again, something that comes with the tool that I do not use in my work. So these tools, I do the bulk of my basic cuts on the glass. And then we have my favorite tool, which is also by Leponet. These are I've always called them nippers, but I've also seen them called Grosier pliers, but I just call them nippers. I think that's an easier word. So this is definitely my favorite tool when I'm making my work. I use it to refine shapes, I use it to round edges, and I have a lot of fun with it. I'm just looking for a scrap bin here so I can demonstrate how I would use this. So if I was making, say, a circle, I would do most of the work that I could with the scoring tool and the running pliers first and get as close to the shape that I'm going for with these initially. And then the nippers I would use to just sort of make that shape more round. So you see that it's sort of a circle with just some points. This tool I would use to get rid of those points. So just go around, nip off those edges. And then of course if it's not exactly perfect, the beauty about glass fusing is that those edges are going to melt in the kiln anyways, and typically that doesn't bother me. I do not use a grinder at all in my work, so I wouldn't grind those edges. I don't find the need for it. Okay, so those are the basic cutting tools. Alright, so moving along, I thought I would talk about using Sharpie markers in my work. Most of my videos you can see me do like a rough little sketch. I typically use the fine tip Sharpie to draw whatever I'm trying to make. I also sometimes, I guess this is the ultra fine point. That's what I typically use. This is the fine point, the thicker one, which I do sometimes use, kind of depends on whatever I have at hand. These are just regular black I have never had a problem with the Sharpie staying on after a piece has been fired. I have heard that metallic colors and maybe some of the other colors can stay on a project after it's fired, so I probably wouldn't recommend that. But I find that just plain regular black Sharpie, I can draw whatever I want, wherever I want in the glass. It can be sandwiched between layers, it can be on top, underneath, and it always burns off in the kiln. Another tool material that you'll always see me use is regular white Elmer's school glue. This is what I use to attach pieces of glass to each other, to a base piece of glass, in order to build my designs. This is just for transport purposes. My studio is inside my house and my kiln is outside in the garage. So I do have to somehow get the projects from my studio to the garage without it falling apart. So this is what I use to hold my projects together. I, again, haven't had an issue with it not burning off, not disappearing. I think the trick is to not use too much of it. You definitely don't want to use a whole bunch. And also, I don't like to have a lot of glue on the surface of the design. It's just a tiny bit just to hold it together while I bring it to the kiln. I know there are certain specific glues that you can use in glass fusing, like I think it's called Gel Tack. I'm not sure if that's a Bullseye brand. I've never used it because this has always worked perfectly fine for me, and it's cheap and you can find it anywhere. Just the regular white Elmer's glue though, not the gel kind, not the glitter kind. I haven't used anything else besides just the regular white school glue. Next up we have some Windex, just regular glass cleaner. I don't even know if this is actually Windex brand in here. I just keep this on hand in case I need to wipe off the Sharpie marker that I've drawn on a project and I don't like the way it looks, or if I maybe use too much glue by accident and want to clean that up. I actually spray it and clean my work surface with this too, just because it's always here. So that's why we have Windex on hand. So next up, something that I use quite often in my work is hairspray. This is just regular Suave Max Hold hairspray. I use this to hold glass frit to my projects. So whether it be the powdered frit or some of the larger sizes like fine or medium, this does a great job for holding those teeny tiny pieces of glass together so that they don't move around while I'm bringing my project to the kiln. So basically it serves the same purpose as the glue. It's just for, you know, ease of use when you're gluing down such teeny tiny pieces of glass. Same with the Elmer's glue. I've never had this leave a residue on my projects. I've never had it cause any weird interactions between this and the glass. So I just keep purchasing the same brand because it's what works for me. So I haven't tried any other ones. Next up we have some, what is this? Oh, enamel. So this is the Fuse Master Cool Colors High Temperature Enamels. This is the color black. As you can see, it comes as a powder. And then I also have the Fuse Masters Water Friendly Medium. So you can either use the enamels as is, as a powder, or you can mix it with this Water Friendly Medium, which is a liquid, and then that's how I've used a paint in some of my previous videos. I don't love how this combination applies to projects with a paintbrush. Maybe I just haven't practiced enough and found what works for me. It's not how, it doesn't behave how you would think paint would behave, because it's not paint, it's enamel powder mixed with a medium. So I think I just need to do more experimenting with that. I have black, and then I also have, I think, either a copper or a gold color, which I've also had sort of mixed results with. So more practicing needed. Next up we have, I'm going to talk about the frit tools that I use. So the first important thing is a N95 respirator mask. This I wear when I use the powdered glass. You do not want to be breathing in glass powder. It says so right on the jars when you purchase the frit. So this is definitely the number one tool you should get if you are planning on using any type of powdered glass. These little baskets are great for using the powdered glass. We have a large one to cover a larger surface, sort of a mid-sized one, and then the little baby guy. I know they make even smaller tools for powders. I think these are actually enamel tools, but you can use them for the glass powdered frit as well. But they make even smaller ones where the opening is, you know, basically like a pencil point size, and that you can get really detailed work with. I just don't have one of those yet at the moment. So I'm going to put my mask on and I can just demonstrate how these can be used. I just have a sheet of paper here that I'm going to show you on, but of course you would probably be applying this to glass. So I have my powdered frit here, just chose a dark purple just so that you can see it on top of the white here. A plastic spoon. This comes in much more handy than I ever thought it would in my studio, but I always keep this on hand. Let's start with the bigger one first. So basically you can take a scoop, put it in the basket here, and then when it's over the surface where you'd like to apply it, this little handle is like a twisted wire, and you can use whatever tool you have to rub against that, and then it'll cause the frit, the powder, to fall through the little basket, and then you can apply it to your surface. So this is good for covering, like I said, a large surface because it's a really big basket. I don't use that terribly often. I find myself reaching for this little guy most times. You can just grab a little bit and again just apply it to the surface. The next frit tools that I use all the time, these guys are little rubber, I think they're modeling tools. This one's actually my favorite. Sometimes I use this shape for the little fine point, but usually I use this one. So you can use this to shape the frit however you'd like. I've seen people do really detailed portrait work with powdered frit. I think that's super cool. Maybe something I'll experiment with in the future. So you can, you know, make negative shapes. Let's see, we could maybe try to write a word, do your signature, something like that. Yeah, you can really just kind of play with it. Those are the frit tools. Put this back in here. Save it for later. Next up, we have a tea light candle. I have a lighter. I also have tweezers, and I will demonstrate how I use this stuff in my projects. So I use the tea light candle to bend stringers. So stringers are the long, skinny pieces of glass. I'm just gonna snap this in half just so I have a more manageable size to work with. I love using this technique if I'm making any sort of like natural flower stems or vines or leafy type things. I just really find this relaxing, pretty mesmerizing. I really enjoy this technique. So I'll just demonstrate a little bit about how you can bend the stringer. Something like that. I usually like to pull apart the ends to get a little delicate bit instead of a blunt end. If you're getting too close to the flame, that's when the tweezers come in handy. Actually, I use these tweezers all the time in my work. It's great for picking up tiny pieces. Let's see if we can get sort of a spiral here. I think you guys can maybe hear my dogs walking around out there. Little toenails on the hardwood floor. Yeah, so this is a pretty decent spiral. Making complicated shapes using this technique just, takes some practice. Once you get the feel for how the glass moves, how it melts a little bit, and then trying to, not melt it too much in any one direction. But yeah, smoke here. That's how you would, do a spiral, do zigzags, do whatever kind of shape you can think of. I have done a treble clef before. That was pretty complicated, but definitely a challenge. So that is stringer bending. Oh, one more thing with that is you can actually bend ribbons or noodles over the flame as well. You just have to really, really, really wait for it to heat up. It goes a lot slower. I think I did that in my snow globe video where I made the little candy canes using the ribbons, and I also broke several of those, so it's just a lot more difficult. That's when I get jealous of flame workers who, use a blowtorch. I'm sure that would be a lot easier to bend this thicker piece of glass rather than a little tea light, but this is what we have, so this is what we work with. So the next thing I can talk about is high temperature wire. So I use 20 gauge nichrome wire. I just get a spool of it and then I cut it with wire cutters and fashion my own hooks. So this is what I use to fuse into the glass. If I'd like a fused in hook, let me get a little sample. So something like this. It definitely, the color does darken. It's not going to be this bright silver once it's fired, once it goes through the kiln heat. So that's an alternative to drilling holes. I have been drilling more holes lately with my Dremel tool and drill press. But if I want to fuse in hooks, this is what I use. We can also talk about adhesives a little bit. These are the two that I use mainly. So this is E6000, that's an epoxy, I believe, industrial strength adhesive. And then I also use Loctite glass glue. So this is good if you're gluing glass to other glass. It dries really, really fast, sort of like a super glue. This E6000 does not dry very fast, so you have to make sure that whatever you're adhering is stable, so it's not sliding around. It does take several hours to set, but this I found you can basically glue glass to anything, any material like wood or metal. So I use both of these in my work. So that is basically it. I think those are all the tools that I use on a regular basis when I'm making my fused glass work. If anyone has any further questions, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. Like I mentioned earlier, I will try to link all of the things I've shown you in the description box so that if anyone's looking for anything, you'll be able to find it. Thank you for watching this video. I will be back next week with another project walkthrough where I will be either narrating or stopping to explain what I'm doing in that video. So please please stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you'd like to see my weekly Fused Glass Friday videos. Bye guys!